Cyber City Oedo 808, Data 1 to 3. Hard-hitting criminals turned cops come up against some real mean cases in a bid to reduce their sentences. It can only mean action all the way.
Try this for size.
Hey, what's happening YouTube? My name's Gray, this is Video Holocaust, where once again I shine a spotlight onto an anime OVA that's fallen down the pecking order in the discussion of must-watch anime from the 90s, despite being a prominent early title to get wide release in the West, just as the medium was starting to gain traction among action movie loving aficionados. Directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, a man whose reputation was cemented in his homeland as the leader of a new wave of gritty, urban, supernatural infused anime, following a string of critically acclaimed OVAs and feature-length films, such as Wicked City and Demon City Shinjuku. Today's review may be one of his least high-profile works, but one in which that still retains his trademark touches. It is the three-part OVA Cyber City Oedo 808, and we're going to start with Part 1, Virtual Death. We begin our tale in the far future of the 29th century, where three of the most dangerous and fashion-conscious career criminals are given an ultimatum. Use their unique talents for justice and help the state capture and or terminate the increasingly sophisticated and psychotic villains plaguing the city, or remain incarcerated in an off-world maximum security prison at Her Majesty's pleasure for the rest of their days. Grudgingly, they accept the offer presented to them, and in part 1 we are introduced to the first of our triumvirate of cons turned cyber police officers, Shunsuke Sengoku, who finds himself caught up in a madman's plan to topple the world's largest skyscraper. But things quickly go tits up when it's revealed the brains behind the attack is a dead man, whose desire for vengeance against his killer, who's profited greatly from his deed, is so strong that not even death can stop him. But Sengoku, who wears a Battle Royale style collar that's ticking down courtesy of his handler slash chief of police Hasegawa, is fighting for his life, and shows this cyborg zombie that all the computations in the world can't predict the movements of a desperate man, and Sengoku kills him a second time, saving the skyscraper and the city, but most importantly, spiting Hasegawa. Now, the clips you've just seen come from the remastered DVD version, but I want to take a moment to highlight these, the original UK VHS releases, because while using the same English dub as its US counterpart, contains a completely original score, composed by Rory McFarlane. But while the soundtrack alone may not be enough to make many of you go to the trouble of acquiring these old cassettes, it needs to be pointed out that the UK soundtrack is far superior to the original Japanese, and goes a long way to improve the all-round cyberpunk atmosphere of the series. And with that being said, we come to part 2, Psychic Trooper. After the tip-top animation and all-action opening episode, part 2 was going to have to bring something special to the table to better it. But with the maestro Kawajiri overseeing development of the series, such concerns are quickly put to one side, because part 2 may be my favourite episode, as this time we follow the built-like-a-brick shithouse computer expert, Gogol, named after a 19th century Russian novelist, Nikolai Gogol, who was a prominent figure in Romanticism. So too does our Gogol have to deal with a woman from his past, getting him in a lot of trouble, as she's being blackmailed in order for the military to use Gogol as a test subject against a little thing they've been developing, a cyborg with enhanced psychic fighting abilities. But no matter how high-tech the hardware, it proves no match for some good old-fashioned mindless violence, as we begin to see the theme of the series play out, as like the first episode, it's the character's humanity and ability to not only think outside the box, but sheer guts and refusal to back down in the face of insurmountable odds that makes them human, and by extension, more than a match for any tin-plated tosspot. Now, unlike the bulk of Japanese animation, whether from now or at any stage in its history, Cyber City wasn't based on an established or long-running manga. But other than the 3 OVA episodes we're looking at today, was there any other media to accompany it? Well, to coincide with its Western release, a 3-issue limited edition US comic by CPM Press was released. But more significantly, there exists a video game adaptation. Unfortunately, despite appearing on my favourite platform, the PC Engine, it's a very text-heavy game, so isn't very import-friendly. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we still have one more episode to look at, and that's the third and final part. Bloodlust. Unlike the first 2 episodes, which explored more traditional cyberpunk adventures centred around technology, Part 3 is a more gothic in tone supernatural murder mystery, a style that Kawajiri clearly has a fondness for, as he would return to the genre with the lavish Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust in 2000. But back on the mean streets of Oedo, our cyber police have their hands full with a spate of murders, all of whom have been drained of blood. But vampires don't exist. Or do they? In his investigations, the final character takes centre stage, our androgynous, or simply bent like a £3 note, not that I'll say that to his face, Benton, pieces together the clues and discovers an old man's obsessive quest to find a way to cheat death itself and become immortal by experimenting on cryogenically frozen bodies. And after a lifetime of trial and error, he perfects his serum. One of his unlucky test subjects who somehow managed to survive tries to end his macabre reign of terror, but she's too late, leaving Benton to face the now unstoppable foe. But Benton has a trick up his fabulous sleeves, an antidote, and in true Vampire Hunter tradition, he drives it through the monster's heart. But what of the young lady, also cursed? All she wants is to rest in peace forever. Benton grants her wish and jettisons her into space, to sleep, perchance, to dream. I've really enjoyed going back and rewatching this classic series that I first watched as an impressionable teenager on Channel 4 back in the 90s. But in this day and age of on-demand and literally more anime shows than there are stars in the sky, is Cyber City Oedo 808 really worth going to the trouble of finding and watching? Is the Pope Jewish? Of course it is. And like I mentioned in another Kawajiri work that I've reviewed on this channel, the sumptuous Samurai Saga Ninja Scroll, what makes a lot of these older anime from the 80s and 90s so good is the simple fact that many studios simply wouldn't be allowed to make shows with the same levels of sex and violence and gore than in previous decades. Fashions may change, tastes may change, but quality is truly timeless. And you'll struggle to find an anime of better quality than Cyber City Oedo 808. And one of the reasons why I chose to review this show is that after what feels like a lifetime of waiting, we now finally have confirmation of a Blu-ray release. Truly something to look forward to. So my name's Gray. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for watching. I'll hopefully have more videos coming your way very, very soon, so be sure to check them out. If you haven't already, please subscribe. So this has been my review of Cyber City Oedo 808, a true classic. So get to watching it if you haven't seen it already, and if you have seen it already, tell me what you think of the show in the comments down below. So again, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.